This is the Vegan Breakthrough Podcast, episode number 3. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode. Today you're going to listen to the second part of our interview with Victoria Moran, a best-selling author of 12 books. Let's enjoy it. So creating a charmed life, it was more like before Main Street Vegan, right?
Oh yeah, quite a bit. Creating a Charmed Life came in 1999, and there is a sequel, an entirely different book, but everybody thinks it's the same book because they called it Living a Charmed Life. But anyway, Creating a Charmed Life was my big bestseller. Mm-hmm. That was in a whole lot of languages and got me traveling all over the world, and just having that little bit of 15 minutes that Andy Warhol promised us. Yeah, it's a sweet little book to this day. It's just about living well. Somebody wrote to me once and said, "I love all your books, but Creating a Charmed Life, now that one's blessed." And I would say, yeah, that one's blessed, but I think Main Street Vegan is blessed too. It's really spawned a lot of kindness and gentleness in this world that might not exist without it. So I feel very humbled and honored to have been the conduit for both those books and quite a few of the others.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that Creating a Charmed Life was more of a spiritual book, but did you touch any aspects of plant-based diet or veganism in that book?
I do. Creating a Charmed Life has, I think it's 75 little chapters, and I certainly talk about well-being somewhere in there. I actually talk more about, the vegan thing and living healthfully and that in the sequel, simply because in 1999, I was vegan and pretty much nobody cared. In 2009, I was vegan and a lot of people were getting interested. So it made more sense. It was just more organic 10 years later to bring more of that in.
Yeah, so in your sequel, you bring the idea that following a healthful plant-based diet and lifestyle is a big component of that charmed life, right?
Well, it is. And you don't know it till you do it. When you're just living your life, you might have a friend who's a vegan, and it's interesting. Vegans are all kinds of people. We come in every kind of size and shape. Some vegans are really interested in health. Some vegans are just like, are you kidding? If I want a chili cheese dog, I have a vegan chili cheese dog. If I want a pepperoni pizza, I have a vegan pepperoni pizza. Get off my case. Right. And that is all cool, because just like I think, we used to think we're going to get all the liberals and the Unitarians and the people that listen to NPR. Well, that's not enough. You can't save all the animals with half the people. You've got to open up and expand and be welcoming. In my own case, because I believe that veganism has done so much for my health, I did it for the animals, but I feel that the animals have given back to me this amazing gift of not going back into disordered eating, of not ever having to diet or watch my weight or do any of that stuff. And now reaching the age of certainly being the mother and probably the grandmother age of a lot of your listeners, I don't have any of those diseases that people in my family had before this. They had type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure and elevated cholesterol. Some of them had already had 1 or 2 heart attacks. I don't take a single pharmaceutical drug. I do aerial yoga. I was voted last year PETA's sexiest vegan over 50. And I just have to say, thank you, beautiful animals. I did the only thing that anybody who thinks about this could do in becoming vegan. I don't need anything back from you, but you gave me back all this health and liveliness and vitality. It's just the coolest thing.
And How did you come up with the name Main Street Vegan? It's such a great idea, such a great name. What specifically this meant to you back then, and
Yeah.
maybe it means something even more right now?
Oh, bless you. Thank you for asking that, Sergey, because that's another good story. I'm full of stories.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a PETA fundraiser in December of 2010, and they showed videos. And of course, I had been watching videos like that for almost 40 years by then. It wasn't anything new, except that that particular night, my heart was more open than usual. And all I wanted to do was write PETA a check for $100,000 and say, here, go fix something. But that check would have bounced. So I went home in the subway, and I was really kind of talking to God, like, what can I do? And I got the clearest inspiration. It came to me, what you are supposed to do is make your next book be about veganism. It's supposed to be called Main Street Vegan because you want to appeal to regular people all across North America and around the world. It needs to have 40 little chapters because people don't have long attention span. And you need to put a nice, easy, really tasty recipe at the end of each chapter. Mm-hmm. And it was as if I was taking dictation and saying, okay, I could do that. So I presented this to my literary agent and wrote the book proposal. And when a Tarcher Penguin bought the book, the way it works in nonfiction is you present a proposal, the publisher takes on the book, and then you write the book. And the publisher wants input in that book. Mm-hmm. So just after everything is signed, my publisher called my editor, and she said, love that we're doing this and all that, but we hate Main Street. It sounds mm-hmm. like the Tea Party. Now, I know you're in Canada, but down here in the States, the Tea Party is a very conservative kind of, lower our taxes kind of mm-hmm. group. And I thought, well, I guess they have arteries too. I mean, right. But she was not budging. So I had a miracle. My husband and I went to a movie on a Saturday afternoon, and we were walking to the subway here in New York City, and right there on Broadway was Michael Moore. Mm-hmm. Now, Michael Moore had liked one of my earlier books, written about it in Oprah's magazine. So I just gave my card to the woman who was with him and said, just tell him hello from me. He liked one of my books. 15 seconds later, I hear, Victoria. Mm-hmm. And there is Michael Moore coming up Broadway. We exchanged pleasantries. And then he said, we need to talk. We need to talk about food. Mm-hmm. So we sat at a bus stop, Michael Moore and myself, my mm-hmm. husband and the woman who turned out to be his sister, and had a little chat. And he said, I'm going to call you. And I thought, of course you are. Academy Award winners call me all the time. Well, lo and behold, he called and we started talking some. And in one of these conversations, I told him that the book that I was working on was supposed to be called Main Street Vegan. Publisher hated it. And he said, they're wrong. Let me talk to them. Mm-hmm. So there was a 3-way call between Michael Moore, my editor, and myself. He convinced her. She convinced the higher-ups. And Main Street Vegan was born. And the day that she called and told me that that was my title, mm-hmm. it was like a spiritual experience. And mm-hmm. all these other ideas started coming. It's like, well, there needs to be a Main Street Vegan production company, and you need to do vegan films, and there needs to be a Main Street Vegan podcast, and there needs to be Main Street Vegan Academy, training mm-hmm. and certifying vegan lifestyle coaches. And mm-hmm. all of that came just in knowing that Main Street Vegan is my brand and my niche and what I'm devoting the rest of my life to.
What do you think about these two terms, plant-based and vegan? What is the difference between these two terms for you? Because there is so much talk about this plant-based. It's not right. It's not about animals. It's just about diet. Vegan, that should be the correct term. What do you think about it?
That's exactly what I would have said until very recently. For a whole lot of reasons, I am not crazy about plant-based. And the biggest reason is that it doesn't reveal enough. People don't know what it means. I actually use that term plant-based, and somebody said to me, "You mean you eat like the philodendrons?" I mean, she literally thought we were talking about houseplants. But more than that, the problem is that term based. If I say to you that my neighbor's children go to a math-based school, you wouldn't say, "Oh, they're abused children. They're not getting English and history and art. It's just math all day long." You would know that there was the emphasis on math and they get the other stuff too. So with a plant-based diet, just by definition, it means it's based on plants, but it also includes other things, which could be animals. Now, in North America, most people who use the term do know what it's meant to be. And it was actually coined Whole Foods Plant-Based Diet by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, whom I admire off the charts. And certainly in his definition, he is talking about a way of eating that is based on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, with 0 to 5%, he has said, animal foods, ideally closer to 0. So obviously he's coming from a health point of view, from a biochemical nutrition researcher's point of view. And probably for somebody who doesn't have very specific pathology, if human health were the only concern here, maybe something in that 1 to 5% of calories from animal foods wouldn't make any difference. But it sure makes a difference to the animal. So how we got around this in the old days is that there were ethical vegans. That's the people who cared about the animals and who didn't wear leather or go to the rodeo or, that kind of thing. And then there were health vegans who didn't eat animal products or junk foods or other foods that they disapproved of for their health. But in their other life, they just did what they felt like. Now, then, as now, so many people that came to this and continue to come to this for one reason are introduced to all the other reasons. So I just love vegan. And the other thing that I like about it is that people know what it is. So when I say plant-based, we're thinking, what, the philodendron? But when I say vegan, people at least know that it means no animal products. Some people have an idea, oh, it also means you eat really healthfully. And some people have read something different and they say, oh, vegan, you guys can eat a lot of junk food. So what it means beyond no animal products, I understand needs some further interpretation. But as James McWilliams, Professor James McWilliams said when he was on my podcast, vegan is a very hopeful word. And I think it is, because what it really means is a willingness to live with concern for the other, a willingness to care about somebody besides me. And I go back to the Vegan Society, the original UK Vegan Society definition of vegan, and I might not get every word exactly right, but they say that this is a way of living that seeks to avoid exploitation of animals wherever practicable and possible. And it's not about diet. Under the vegan umbrella, if you're somebody who's interested in diets, you can be whole food, plant-based without any oil. You can be raw. You can be Eco Atkins, which was developed by a fellow Canadian, a countryman of yours, Dr. David J.A. Jenkins. He found that some people did better with a little less overall carbohydrate, a little more fat. And so he has this thing where, you're eating beans and low starch vegetables and low sugar fruits. And, that's working for some people. There's a vegan way to be Ayurvedic, a vegan way to be macrobiotic. So all those, quote, diets certainly can be vegan, but veganism is not a diet. Veganism is a glorious adventure in love. I'll just stop with that. Love, that's a good word too.
It is love. It is a glorious adventure. But many people nowadays consider ethical veganism as some form of religion. What do you think of that?
The word religion, if you go back to the Latin root, is to lead back. To lead back to truth, to understanding. And I really think that veganism, of course, it's not a religion like a religion of the world, but I do believe that there is a great spiritual impact that can happen for a person who decides to do this. You hear so often a new vegan who lives in the city and has just been doing this for a while. They go out into the country and they drive past a field where there are cows. And they catch a glimpse in the eye of one of these animals. And the connection that happens because this person is no longer harming animals, is no longer in a Judeo-Christian sense violating the covenant that for people who believe in the Bible, God made with animals and humans. And it's just stunning what happens. Now, if we're saying it's a religion in terms of there are a whole bunch of rules and everybody who doesn't see everything just the way that I do is, some kind of outcast, well, that's silly. And I think as each of us matures in our veganism, we just get a little less strident about that. Something that I see in my daughter that's really interesting. She is a lifelong vegan. She has never tasted an animal product. She's not a big proselytizer. She doesn't go out to people and try to force them into being vegan. If they ask her, she's happy to tell them. And that's just my daughter, Adair, who worked with me on Main Street Vegan. I'm very proud of that. But I think it is a little bit like somebody who is part of a religion. If you grow up in a particular religious tradition and you stay with that throughout your life, you're not likely to be trying to convert everybody you see. But if you just discover it, like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden now I belong to the XYZ faith, then you want to tell everybody. And that's how it is with us vegans. It's like, whoa, I've seen the light.
Yes.
And what happens is it's not so much about our seeing the light, it's about our shining the light. So if we have that wonderful, peaceful, beautiful spirit, and if we're eating all these glorious, beautiful foods, and so we actually do have that kind of glow that people who eat a really healthy kind of vegan diet, a lot of raw foods and juices and that kind of thing, they really do just start to look like, what have you been doing? Well, that's how we're going to get people, more than just telling them what they're doing that we think is wrong.
And you said that you are full of stories, so you have probably a great story, an interesting story behind each of your books. Do you have any interesting story behind the Good Karma Diet book, Eat Gently, Feel Amazing, Age in Slow Motion?
Thank you for asking. In 2008, I was dealing with something that I have had all my life, which is exercise-induced asthma. And I'm so grateful to be vegan because any kind of breathing situation, anything that has to do with the lungs or the bronchi, the worst thing is dairy. So I feel very fortunate that I have had all these years without dairy. But in 2008, I was wanting to get a little bit more involved in athletic pursuits and really wanted to clean up my act. And so I started eating more raw food. And I felt so amazing. Even after decades of being vegan and feeling okay, when I was doing mostly raw, I felt like $1,000,000. And one day at the gym, I was on the treadmill and I thought, you know what? I feel so good. I eat a good karma diet and I'm living a good karma life. And I thought at that time maybe I'd write something, but I didn't. And I just, kind of filed it away. And then after Main Street Vegan, the publisher wanted a second book. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult. It's almost like movies, with sequels. And it's like maybe they don't need a sequel. And the publisher didn't really want the one that I was wanting to write. And so she had remembered that term, the good karma diet. So I did that. Now I'm going to be really, really honest with you and your listeners, because I think that's always the best policy. I didn't stay with that raw thing, because what I found was that during the summer, it's really easy. And I'm practically raw like right now, because we're talking in the summertime. Believe me, if we were talking in February, I would be talking about hot soup and oatmeal and that kind of thing. So it was a difficult book for me to write, because I had to really bring to mind what I believe and also what I do, which is kind of, I think, the challenge of the nonfiction writer. So it's a sweet book. It's not my favorite book, but I'll tell you one that is rapidly becoming a favorite, and that is the new one that J.L. Fields and I have written together, along with 60 of the graduate coaches from Main Street Vegan Academy, and it's called the Main Street Vegan Academy Cookbook. And what is so cool about it is widely embracing of every kind of culinary style of veganism. Somebody asked me on Facebook, is it oil-free? And I said, well, some of the recipes are oil-free, but it's certainly not a cookbook that represents one of the vegan dietary styles. It is a cookbook that embraces every vegan dietary style. And because we have so many coaches from different backgrounds, ethnicities, we've got a couple of dietitians, we've got the cordon bleu chef. It's just this celebration of vegan food. And then the parts that I devoted most of my time to is a really new, updated, absolutely cutting edge guide to going vegan. It's sort of like Main Street Vegan 2018. Wow. So the book will be out in December, but you can get it now on Amazon for pre-order. If I can possibly get in a little bit of an ad here. I'm not the world's biggest Amazon fan, because I really like mom and pop stores. And I think publishing had a lot more freedom, and it was a lot more viable an industry before Amazon came along to be Amazonian. But they can really offer things to people at a very affordable price. And right now they are offering this beautiful, and I mean, it really is beautiful. The design is unbelievable. The photographs are unbelievable. Gorgeous, big cookbook for somewhere between $12 and $13. So if anybody would like to help us out with a pre-order, which really does help because that gets the buzz going, if you'd like to have the Main Street Vegan Academy Cookbook delivered to your door right in time for Hanukkah, solstice, Christmas, and Kwanzaa, thank you. And thanks for letting me share that, Sergey.
Oh, absolutely. And can you please tell us more about Main Street Vegan Academy? Who is it for? And what is a vegan lifestyle coach or educator?
Sure. Well, it's for people just like you, very active, invested kinds of vegans. So Main Street Vegan Academy invites any vegan, and you don't have to be a long-time vegan, you just have to be a genuinely committed vegan, to come to New York City for a 5.5-day miracle. And I say that because I have witnessed this. We've had 19 classes over a period of 5 years. We've had people from 16 countries. They come to New York and they are taught by some of the brightest minds in the vegan world. core faculty includes people like John Joseph, who's lead singer for the Cro-Mags, Dr. Robert Ostfeld of the Montefiore Cardiac Wellness Center, Dr. Michelle McMacken, who was in the documentary What the Health, if anybody has watched that. We have Martin Rowe from Brighter Green. We have J.L. Fields. J.L. Goes Vegan. We have the Vegan Moes, who teach a class on food as activism. And these incredible instructors cover 3 basic tiers: vegan principles, communication principles, and business principles, so that people can leave after 5.5 days. And we never promise anything. I mean, this is not Trump University. I'm not going to tell anybody, oh yeah, come to our course and quit your day job. No, but people who do have an entrepreneurial spirit are out there coaching, teaching, writing books, and starting businesses. So Riverdale Vegan Cheese in Brooklyn, that is one of our graduates. Bright Life Foods, yogurt and cheese, is one of our graduates. Kat Mendenhall, cowboy boots, wonderful custom handmade cowboy boots out of Dallas, Texas. Wow. She recently opened a brick and mortar. It's called Mend RT, which stands for Retail Therapy, in downtown Dallas. That's one of our graduates. So if you have this spirit of wanting to do something in the vegan world, you go here, you get very educated, very inspired. We also take field trips because New York City is kind of Disneyland for vegans. Mm-hmm. So we go to not only restaurants, but wonderful shops. Joshua Catcher from Brave Gentle Man and the wonderful men's blog, The Discerning Brute, is one of our instructors. So we go to his menswear boutique in Brooklyn. We go to Vote, which is a wonderful women's wear store. It started with dress-up vegan winter coats and is now a complete fashion line with swimsuits and formal wear and the whole shebang. We go to Moose Shoes, vegan shoe store. So people leave here very inspired and also very connected with their classmates, and also with a private Facebook page and a master list. They can connect with past graduates in their area or who share some of their interests. And we are really, I would say, a gentle army of over 260 graduates around the world, mm-hmm. changing the world for animals and making people healthier and happier and maybe giving this planet a shot. So if anybody's interested, just go to mainstreetvegan.net, click on Academy, and there's everything there you need to know. And if you need to know anything more, just drop me an email or give me a call.
Thank you, my friend, for being with us today. I hope you find value in this episode. If there was anything we mentioned and you missed it, don't worry about it. We take all the notes. Simply visit veganbreakthrough.com/free to see all that information. And let's get this conversation going. Send us your question on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and we'll be happy to address it in our future episodes. Thank you for being with us today. Goodbye.